Zeke deal done. Let's fucking go!
What it do, baby?
6-year extension, $90 million, $50 million guaranteed. The richest deal for a running back in NFL history. And it locks up my boy Zeke on my team, the Dallas Cowboys, until 2026. You really love to see it. This is about to be spicy. Let's hit that ad first.
What it do, baby?
Welcome back to another edition, the number one podcast in your headphones. That's right. Don't ever get it twisted. Don't ever play yourselves. You've tuned in to Prem Brulee. I'm your host, Premal of the Play Call Network. You know how we do things. Yeah, Fam or Nah leads it off. And last week, of course, the main headline was Andrew Luck's surprise retirement. Well, we have a Yeah, Fam or Nah on the Colts quarterback situation following that retirement. The Colts signed Jacoby Brissett to a 2-year, $30 million extension with $20 million guaranteed. It replaces Brissett's final year of his rookie deal, so his contract runs through 2020. They also signed Brian Hoyer to a 2-year, $12 million deal, $9 million of it guaranteed to serve as backup. Shout out to backup quarterbacks, especially ones that have held clipboards behind Tom Bradiot, apparently. Did you know that Hoyer's now made $30 million being a backup? And Jimmy Garoppolo's out here earning fat stacks for never playing? Wow. I guess I'm a Yeah fan. It seems like a win-win. The Colts sign Jacoby Brissett but aren't locked into him long-term if it doesn't work out. They're still paying him a decent amount, way better than his rookie deal. Then they signed a veteran behind him. Shout out to backup quarterbacks. I mean, obviously baseball's the best sport to get into. Maybe like a middle relief pitcher, but backup quarterback's got to be up there. You don't have to take hits in practice. You pretty much just play preseason and you get millions of dollars. Pretty nice. Speaking of quarterbacks and money, Jared Goff got a 4-year extension for $134 million with a whopping $110 million guaranteed. So over the summer, Carson Wentz signed a 4-year, $128 million extension with nearly $108 million guaranteed. Obviously, Dak Prescott's up next, and the Wentz and Goff deal should set his market, I would think. The Eagles were smart, got ahead of the extensions, and signed Wentz early. And now these new deals will continue to set the market here. For better or for worse, Dak Prescott is going to get paid. It's just a matter of what he accepts. And if I were him and his team, I would definitely accept it before entering into this final year of his rookie deal where he's getting paid a whopping $2 million to be quarterback of America's team. Okay, over to college football. Yeah, fam or not, Jalen Hurts not smiling, saying they played sloppy, they being Oklahoma. He's now quarterback of Oklahoma, in case you've been under a rock and are not privy to all the transfer quarterbacks. So Hurts said they played sloppy and they have a lot to work on. It was following his incredible debut with Oklahoma in a 49-31 victory over Houston. It's still Go Cougs, by the way.
Petty alert, petty alert, petty alert.
Shout out the fam.
What it do, baby?
He said, quote, "We did some really good things out there tonight, but there are a lot of things we can improve on. We've got to take the next step." End quote. So here are Hurts' stats. 20 of 23 for 332 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Then on the ground, he had 16 carries for 176 yards with 3 rushing TDs. Am I just being petty if I say nah?
Petty alert, petty alert, petty alert.
Well, dumb question. We all know I am. Captain of Team Petty. You know the drill. Number one podcast listeners, you're on the squad. How dumb is it to hear people who clearly know they did incredible try to convince us they didn't? It's fucking exhausting. Like, imagine all those players busting their ass just to be mediocre, and you hear someone like Jalen Hurts say he played like shit. The dude had fucking 500 yards by himself and 6 touchdowns. Nobody wants to hear you say shit about you playing like shit because you didn't.
And have fun with it.
That's fucking insulting. You talk about respecting your opponents. You're basically telling them, oh, you played like shit and you still put up 49 on them and waxed them. What kind of fucking shit is that? I'm a nod of that. Call me petty if you want. I'm proud of it.
Petty alert, petty alert, petty alert.
Before the start of the NFL's 100th season, the Houston Texans are out here being active. So the Texans dealt former number one pick and contract holdout who refused to sign his franchise tag, Jadeveon Clowney, to the Seahawks. The Texans received a whopping 2020 third-round pick and linebackers Barkevious Mingo and Jacob Martin in return. ESPN's Adam Schefter also reported that Houston paid Clowney a $7 million signing bonus. So that is already paid. Seattle just has to pay the remaining $8 million of his salary. It's worth noting that Clowney does have to play under his franchise tag this year, but Seattle has promised him that they will not tag him. The Texans also acquired tackle Laramie Tunsil and wide receiver Kenny Stills from the Miami Dolphins. They sent first-round picks next year and in 2021, along with the second-round pick in 2021, offensive tackle Julian Davenport and cornerback Johnson Batamosi. In addition to Stills and Tunsil, Houston will also receive a fourth-round pick next year and a sixth-round pick in 2021. Okay, as far as I'm concerned, this one's split into two. I'm a nod of the Clowney part. And not even necessarily just like trading him. He wasn't happy. They only have so much money. I get all that. But the Texans dropped the ball on this one. That is not a pun. My bad. They could have gotten way better compensation for this if they would have just made Clowney available before the franchise tag deadline. I mean, look at what the Chiefs and Seahawks got for Dee Ford and Frank Clark, respectively. If you don't think Clowney would have gotten better, you haven't been watching football. Okay, fine. The Texans wanted to keep him. Agree to a damn deal, then. Your GM needs to step up. Oh. Whew. That's awkward. GM, the position the Texans decided not to fill after they got accused of tampering. Got it. I mean, those two can't be related. It's just a coincidence. Don't worry about it. Also, if Clowney, after this season, goes elsewhere, Seattle likely will get a third-round compensatory pick. It's fucking genius on their part. The biggest asset they lost in the trade, they would get back if Clowney decides to walk. That's how good teams stay good, guys. Pay attention. Like I said, it was a two-parter. I'm a yeah fan to the other trade, especially in the Texans securing Laramie Tunsil. He is an incredible young offensive tackle in this league. And for my family's sake, they're full of Texans fans. I'm glad that they are finally making efforts to protect Deshaun Watson. You have to protect your quarterback. Take notes from the Colts' mistakes. They didn't protect Luck enough. He's gone. Don't let the same happen to Deshaun Watson. Watson somehow produces despite running for his life, and running for his life more than any other quarterback. The part that does suck for the Texans is I believe this trade now makes it that they'll have 4 straight years of having no first-round picks. They just got done giving up the picks that in the deal that got him Deshaun Watson, and now they'll have another 2 years of no first-rounders with this Dolphins deal. Nice for Texans fans. They don't even need to pay attention to day one of the draft, I guess. So, yeah, fam, to the Tunsil Stills trade, I understand they gave up assets for it, but Tunsil has proven he's good. You don't know that necessarily with that first-round pick. And I'm a nod to the Clowney part, mostly because of the way they managed it. And maybe it could have been fucking avoided if they had someone to general manage. You played yourselves. Oh, by the way, before I continue, what the fuck is Antonio Brown doing? This man's getting into it with his GM? This is already blown up before the season even started. This is a mess. It also makes me wonder how much how well the Steelers did in keeping all this in-house. If mostly the only thing we heard about is what made them trade him to the Raiders, and it's barely been a few months with the Raiders, and all this shit's coming out already. Kind of props to Pittsburgh here. Must have been dealing with some shit. Of course, Brown got into it with GM Mike Mayock and facing a suspension, maybe more. Anyway, on to Likey No Likey Hate It. First up, Likey to Justin Verlander throwing his third no-hitter, putting him in a rare category of pitchers who have achieved the same. He had 14 strikeouts to his 1 walk, which was in the first inning.
And have fun with it.
And the game against the Blue Jays was scoreless until third baseman Abraham Toro hit a 2-run homer with 2 outs in the 9th. Go Stros, you really love to see it.
What it do, baby?
One more Likey. Likey to the Cowboys signing right tackle Lyle Collins to a 5-year extension. It makes it so that they locked up 4 out of their 5 offensive linemen until 2023 at the least, most of them till 2024.
What it do, baby? And have fun with it.
However, the contracts to Jalen Smith, Lyle Collins, and Zeke lead me to my no likey. The money pot is getting smaller and smaller, and the Cowboys still have to pay Dak Prescott, Amari Cooper, and not to mention Pro Bowl cornerback Byron Jones. I hate it goes to when rich teams get richer. How the fuck do the Chiefs wind up with LaShawn McCoy? Why do we always have to deal with just... what? Also, what is it fucking like? What's it like to get people on the cheap? Like, if the Raiders let go of Antonio Brown, when the New England Tom Bradiots pick him up, what is that fucking like? I want to know. Last but not least, I hate it goes to Texas A&M offensive lineman Jared Hawker saying that they'll beat number 1 Clemson. The junior offensive lineman, yes, you heard that right, offensive lineman, told local reporters on Monday that the number 12 Aggies will beat number 1 Clemson in week 2 when they meet. Hawker said he likes being the underdog. That, quote, you always have something to prove.
Listen, you son of a bitch. What the fuck's your problem?
When a reporter asked, does that make Clemson ripe for an upset? Hawker responded plainly, quote, yes it does. There will be an upset, end quote. So a little history here. A&M last season lost by just 2 to Clemson in College Station. This year's matchup is in Clemson. But come on, man. Why do you have to fall for that and give the number 1 team bulletin board material? Why do we always do this? Everybody wants to see Clemson go down. You just gave them motivation. If they'd be a little bit sleepy heading into this one, you might have been able to get them. And a fucking offensive lineman. Leave it to the skill guys. Come on, man. All right, Joker. Hit it, buddy.
Here we go.
Feels weird I said buddy, but okay. You played yourself. It's time. First up on You Played Yourself goes to NFL teams in the year 2016.
What it do, baby?
So, in this year's NFL roster cuts, 2 notable wide receivers were cut. Josh Dotson and Laquan Treadwell. Both these guys were first-round picks in 2016, drafted at 22nd and 23rd overall, respectively. That year also happens to mean, at that selection, they were drafted before a one Michael Thomas. Can't guard Mike himself. Oh yeah, by the way, also on that list, Corey Coleman. Kawhi, you got this one. Will Fuller of the Texans. And Sterling Shepard of the Giants. So for what it's worth, Dotson wound up signing with Minnesota, so went from Washington to Minnesota. He reunited with his former quarterback, Kirk Cousins. Treadwell went unclaimed on waivers. Coleman is on the Giants recovering from a torn ACL. Shepard signed an extension with New York this offseason, 4 years, $41 million. 21.3 of that guaranteed. And Will Fuller had his 5th-year option picked up. He's got 2 years left on his deal. He has struggled with injuries and not played a full season in his short career. But could you imagine playing yourself as bad as Washington and Minnesota did? Could not be me. Could you imagine playing yourself and drafting a wide receiver over Michael Thomas, knowing what you know now? Columbus, Ohio knew it.
Petty alert, petty alert, petty alert.
A lot of people knew it. Somehow he went to 47. Oh, and speaking of the Raiders and Michael Thomas, we might as well fuse 2 past topics of this episode.
And have fun with it.
Michael Thomas from the top rope coming at Mike Mayock in a tweet saying the following. Quote, I wouldn't take Mike Mayock too serious either, for the simple fact he had the nerves to rank 5 guys higher than me coming out the draft. And we all know how that worked out. Shrug emoji. Who dat though? Hashtag, let's call a spade. End tweet.
What it do, baby?
Michael T, baby. You already know you're part of Team Petty, but let's sound it for the man.
Petty alert, petty alert, petty alert.
Amen with that energy. Next You Played Yourself goes to Dolphins head coach Brian Flores, insisting that his team isn't tanking. Said this per Adam H. Beasley of the Miami Herald. Quote, this game means a lot to me. I wouldn't disrespect the game with that. Again, no, we're not. We're going to try to win every game. I think that's disrespectful to even say that. Disheartening to hear people talk about it, to even say that. For a guy who respects the game as much as the game has done for me, when people say that, it's extremely sad. End quote. Coach Flores, if all that shit is true, I'm fucking George Washington. I get coach speak and sticking with your company, but we're not dumb here. So, in addition to trading away Laramie Tunsil and Kenny Stills to Houston, the team also shipped linebacker Kiko Alonso to the Saints. Here's a translation for you. We're trying to win with subpar talent. We're trying to win without the best players on our roster. That's more fucking like it. Oh, and by the way, you played yourself, Dolphins, again. If you're trying to tank, why wouldn't you at least throw the rookie or the second-year quarterback you traded for in Josh Rosen? You're going to start Ryan Fitzpatrick, see if he can muster up some Fitz magic and win you games you don't fucking care about? You played yourself. This is why bad teams stay bad. Exactly why. Next up. SEC. 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 Bo Nix saved y'all sorry asses from complete disaster. You played yourself, Southeastern Conference. SEC short for fucking second. So let's break it down. Week 1 of college football. Missouri went to Wyoming. First of all, you traveled to Wyoming.
And have fun with it.
But then worse, you lost 37-31. Okay, let's not focus too much on one. South Carolina and Will Muschamp, in his 4th fucking year, lost to underdog UNC and Mac Brown, who hasn't coached in 5 years, 24-20. They allowed 15 unanswered points in the 4th quarter. Then we have Ole Miss losing to Memphis. Probably the only understandable loss because Memphis is legit and Ole Miss just isn't. Also, the cherry on top. Good old Rocky Top. Spice. The Volunteers lost to a team that was 2-10 last year in Georgia State at home, 38-30. Georgia State was 25-point underdogs, scored 17 straight points in the 4th quarter after being down 23-21. Tennessee only added a touchdown with 2 seconds left on the clock. Also, their one saving grace is sound an alert for Tennessee football's Twitter account, who after the team went up 23-21 just didn't tweet the rest.
Petty alert, petty alert, petty alert.
That's the type of energy I need. Maybe your team, if it had that type of petty energy, would win. But you played yourself, SEC.
What it do, baby?
Last but not least on You Played Yourself goes to the NCAA, especially regarding the Brock Hoffman immediate eligibility determination. So I'm sure most of you number one podcast listeners have at least heard a little bit about this situation. So Hoffman transferred from Coastal Carolina this year to Virginia Tech. It was in order to be closer to his mother, who had a non-cancerous brain tumor removed before his freshman season. So his mother continues to deal with complications, and Hoffman was seeking a family hardship waiver to avoid sitting out this year. The NCAA can grant a player such a waiver at its discretion in the case of a family emergency, among other mitigating circumstances. So Hoffman initially filed this in April. They denied it initially. He appealed. Here's where it gets fishy and suspect as fuck. The NCAA added a rule in June stating that a player must apply immediately after learning of a hardship/illness, and the school must be within 100 miles of home. Hoffman's mother was diagnosed in 2017, and his home is 105 miles from Virginia Tech. And the NCAA cited that his mother's condition, which was initially diagnosed in 2017, had since improved while he was enrolled at Coastal Carolina. Listen, I'm not even a conspiracy theorist, but you mean to tell me this man filed in April, you just happened to pass a modification to a rule months later, both of which just happened to apply directly to this case. So, let's reiterate. Brock filed in April. No rule then. In June, NCAA passed a rule saying you got to be within 100 miles. Your home has to be within 100 miles of the campus you're transferring to. And you must file immediately after learning of the condition. Then, in Hoffman's appeal, cites the rule they just passed in June, even though his initial request was filed before the rule was even in place. Does that not seem oddly fucking specific to Hoffman? And who are you to say she's improving enough that she doesn't need help from family? 5 goddamn miles? This is what we're doing now? We're granting immediate eligibility in some cases, but this is one we're not. This is what you want to be known for, NCAA. Being this ridiculous. This man's own mother is sick. He's trying to be closer to family. This is where we're sticking to the letter of the law. And you wonder why everybody fucking hates you. This is absurd. This is the easiest layup of a decision, and instead, the NCAA constantly decides to pull up from half court and make themselves look so incredibly insensitive, unlikable, and out of touch. It is amazing to me how dumb they look. Is no one over there saying, what the fuck are we doing? You played yourself, NCAA. On that note, let's move on to who you got and what you feeling. And last week, as a recap to our picks, I picked a couple college football games. The first was number 11 Oregon versus number 16 Auburn, played in Jerry World. Auburn was a 3.5-point favorite. I went with Oregon and their QB experience, Justin Herbert. But Auburn, as I mentioned earlier, Bo Nix came to their rescue. Auburn, despite only leading a total of 27 seconds, made sure it counted. They defeated Oregon 27-21 behind their true freshman quarterback Bo Nix and his last drive heroics. The other game I picked was number 25 Stanford versus Northwestern. The game was at Stanford. I picked Stanford at home, and they did end up winning 17-7 behind an efficient game by KJ Costello, who got knocked out of the game early. They also got 97 yards rushing on 22 carries by Cameron Scarlett. This week, college football and NFL are live. In the matchup of the week, number 6 LSU at number 9 Texas. LSU opened as 5.5-point favorites. Both teams looked impressive in openers as quarterbacks Joe Burrow and Sam Ehlinger combined for 9 passing touchdowns. This week, I'm going with LSU. I think for once their offense looks good and it looks creative, which is weird to say, associating it with LSU. But I like LSU on the road here, especially with Texas being thin at running back due to injury. And as the NFL season starts, I'll have at least a matchup each episode that I pick. For week 1, I picked Falcons at Vikings. That was an interesting matchup. Two teams that look pretty promising at the start of the season. Minnesota opens as 3.5-point favorites at home. The Falcons are looking to have an explosive offense with Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, and Calvin Ridley. Julio Jones apparently is dealing with some kind of injury, so stay tuned for that. Vikings got a healthy Dalvin Cook and a wide receiver duo of their own. I'm gonna go with Minnesota at home, especially if Julio's banged up. Something about playing in front of a home crowd. Worth noting, while Dalvin Cook's back healthy, look for Devontae Freeman, who was out most of last year, as his fantasy owners I'm sure know. But I wouldn't be surprised to see this be a pretty much a toss-up. As for what I'm feeling, entertainment-wise, Travis Scott's Netflix documentary, Look Mom, I Can Fly, is so worth the watch. It's lit! And personally, I'm feeling having the honor to officiate my best friend's little sister, my little sister's wedding this past weekend. It is one of the coolest things I'll ever be asked, so that's a little personal touch there, but that's what I'm feeling. And as for my too much sense, this week I'm addressing my fellow generation. You know I hate generalizations, especially from people not in our generation, but my plea, my ploy to you, number one podcast listeners, and anyone in general, honor your commitments. Evaluate if your commitment means something to another person. Evaluate how, if you don't honor your commitment, how that would make the other person feel. We need to do better about showing empathy in general. Everyone does, but especially in an age where it is okay to be selfish. Those people that truly matter, evaluate how needed your selfish action is. If it's needed, fine. But if it can be avoided and you can make someone else's day, isn't that what we should be striving for? Evaluate what you committed to originally. Evaluate how you're presenting you not being able to go if you somehow can't last minute. And most of all, evaluate how the other people or the person making the plans would feel if you missed out. Think about it. Don't just think about it in terms of your point of view. Think about it from all sides. And that's my too much sense for you. Advice you didn't ask for, but I'm going to give you anyway. And that wraps up another edition of the number one podcast in your headphones, Prem Brulee. I've been your host, Premal. You know the drill. Rate, review, subscribe. Tell a friend to listen to the podcast. Tell that friend to tell another one. Please check out the other Play Call Network podcasts in the meantime, and we'll talk to you next time.